John, Graham, Joe, John, and others. We're going to take some of your phone calls. We have a quick question for David Icke. He's with us for this segment, and then that's it. He's agreed to come back on the next few months. He's running for Parliament in England to expose the shell operation that is going on over there. And heard his evidence. There's definitely no doubt about that. Learn more at davidicke.com. Again, your phone calls in just a moment. David, you were finishing up to a famous comedian, friend of yours. They're doing this Hail Britannia with them in the shape of a pyramid. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Rule Britannia was, building to the end, and they all formed a pyramid on the stage. And Larry Grayson came out dressed as Britannia and was manhandled up to the top of the pyramid for the big finish. And he said that one night there was a guy in the bottom left-hand corner of the pyramid who'd started to get a cough. And this night, his cough got worse, and it coughed so much that he could no longer stand in the pyramid. And down came the pyramid, and Larry Grayson, symbolic of this elite on the top of the pyramid, ended up in row 2. And all that it had taken was not, someone fighting at the top against Britannia symbolically, but someone who got a cough and walked away at the bottom of the pyramid, because the bottom of the pyramid holds the top of the pyramid up there. And when we stop cooperating with our own enslavement, because there are billions of us who are being enslaved, there's a handful at the peak of the peak of the peak who are orchestrating the enslavement in full awareness. It's all over, and they know that. They're terrified.
Do you know what that is? That's a true Yertle the Turtle story.
Yeah. Do you remember that movie, The Bug's Life, the animated movie?
And he says if just one of these ants, starts standing up, they can push us aside, Yeah,
basically, if they ever find out that we depend on them and not the other way around, then our way of life is over. And that's precisely what we face here. We are the ones with the power, and they are the ones who are terrified of us finding that out. And that's why there's been this massive, constant campaign of suppression of knowledge and awareness to keep us in a smaller box than they're in. We're getting out of it. More and more people are. And it's going to be a very, very interesting few years as the irresistible force which is meets the immovable object which isn't.
David, what do you think about the French students in England stabbed hundreds of times apiece, ritualistically tortured, biological weapons type students, and we have all these other microbiologists and engineers being murdered all over the world? What do you think's going on behind that?
Well, I've just seen that because I've been out with the election all day. I've just seen that on the news tonight. What they're doing in every area of our lives, because we are now going towards this crunch point of awakening and all the rest of it, and they are desperate to get this this network of control in place. What they want, in essentially, is for the cell door to click shut before enough people have realized they're even in a cell. So they're upping the ante all over the place now. I mean, we are having in this country the most incredible number of young people. Interestingly, often they are either famous in terms of one was in a movie, a Harry Potter movie that's coming out, and others are connected to famous people who are being stabbed to death. Now, this is like so many, it's unbelievable. And it's upping the ante of fear so that they can impose the solutions, which are this Orwellian state control. And so we have to now start being aware, and not just aware, but have the courage not to fall for it, and to see that it's there to enslave us and not to protect us. And this is why information is the key. When people understand the game, then the game loses control over them. It's keeping the game from people that all this suppression has been about.
I'm reading that these guys that got killed, butchered in a satanic-style torture ritual, were studying parasites jumping between dog and cat fetuses. Man, I tell you, a bunch of the biological weapons guys in the U.S. were murdered ritualistically. The first one, when it all started, was in Virginia. Remember, they tortured him and carved a pentagram in his back?
Yeah. The biotech industry with Monsanto, of course, prime among them, are a satanic. They're one of the most dark of all the cartels, and they are far more powerful within this network than people realize.
Well, Rumsfeld headed them. He heads every company that does particularly evil stuff. Why is that?
Well, because he's evil. I mean, I don't use the word evil very much. I think it's overused. But if you take it as the opposite of live, spelt backwards, the opposite of life, then evil is very appropriate with him. I mean, he was the man that brought aspartame.
Oh, my God.
Brain suppressant and brain destroyer.
And he gave the reactors to North Korea. Listen to this. Mr. Bonomo was studying a parasite which can spread from cats to human fetuses. See, it's a kill human weapon. Mr. Frez's research was into bacteria which create ethanol for use as fuel. Boy, these... Go ahead.
We've had so many scientists at the cutting edge of their profession in these very areas you're talking about who have been taken out over the years. I mean, there was even a book written about them at one point. So many were taken out, and they would be eating their meal in London. They would get up from it, drive to Bristol, which is a decent drive, where they have no family connections. They'd jump off the big suspension bridge there. There's one after the other that came from the same office.
And, of course, all the surveillance cameras can never catch anything because they always turn off.
Well, we managed to have a situation where a Brazilian was shot 8 times, 7 times in the head while being held down at close range. And, of course, the surveillance pictures didn't come out. Obviously, it wasn't working, mate.
Listen to this. Frenchman killed in London was stabbed 196 times. They had been tortured ritualistically.
Well, you see, this is, again, something that I've been talking about for a long, long time, and it seems so extreme. I know you have too. It seems so extreme that it's beyond people's ability to grasp that it's possible. But what you're talking about here is something that goes on behind the scenes in secret as a matter of course across the world, because the rituals these people are involved in are absolutely horrendous. And clearly, every now and again one breaks the surface and you can get a glimpse of what is the common thing behind the scenes that seems the rarity, but it's not. It's the rarity when it comes to public attention.
Amazing. DavidIcke.com. We're going to take some calls now for David, but we've only got 10 minutes left. But David, just briefly, what is the time frame? Do you think they're going to hit Iran? If they do, how do you see that unfolding?
Well, I tell you what I learned a long time ago, which is kind of, going towards it. I was told that there was going to be a conflict with China. That's where it was leading. What they wanted was a third world war that would complete the process, which the First World War started, League of Nations. The Second World War took on United Nations.
Then they can ration and have drafts and crack down.
They want to bring in the world government so they can say, hey, look, the only way to stop war, it's like they said about the European Union, let's have a European Union and trade together and then we'll stop wars in Europe. The only way to stop war is to have a world government and a world army. And at the end of national armies, so there's no more war. And so they want a massive global conflict. And China, I was told, must have been 15 years ago that was where it was going to head. And I think the Middle East is designed to be the powder keg that starts to draw them in, and Iran could well be it. You see, I may be different to most people. I have real problems with the guy who's leading Iran. For him to come to power when he did, to take over or defeat someone who was perceived globally as a moderate, which would have been very, very difficult.
Which is what the people wanted.
Yeah, it would have been very, very difficult to sell Iran as a danger to the world if he'd have won. But this guy came in and then started speaking the language that allowed them to say, hey, this man's dangerous. I've got great reservations about that.
Well, we know Reagan made deals for the arms for hostages. That was all staged. And so we know there's major connections. Let's take some calls for David Icke, always intriguing, author, documentary filmmaker, lecturer. Tim in Ohio, you're on the air. Go ahead, Tim.
Woody Harrelson once said in a movie, only two good things ever came out of England, America and the Beatles. I think it's time we update that list to the Watson brothers and you, David Icke. Good to talk to you, mate.
Thank you very much. It's very kind.
Alex, it was David that led me to you through some of his books. It was sort of like, your Chemistry 101. David was the catalyst, and you were the monomer. And as you know, I've been gum on your shoe for like 6 years now, and I consider you both best friends that I've never met. David, I own 4 of your books. On the bottom of page 206 in The Biggest Secret, there's a picture in the Bohemian Grove of Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon with the inventor of plutonium, Glenn Seaborg.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that picture put on one of you guys' sites and people just mass mail it to Michael Reagan and